This is JLBito, and you are listening to the Zeroed In podcast. Sit back, relax, and zero in.
I'm so excited to have you here. How
Thank
are
you.
you, first of all?
I'm hanging in there. You know, midterms
Good.
are kind of kicking my butt right now,
Yes.
but I'm hanging in there.
So first of all, I haven't seen you in a while. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to catch up. Like, how's like? So I know, like you said, midterms have been kind of like crazy right now. But how's everything else like in your life? Like, how's everything been going overall?
Everything's been fine. I've been sick for a while, but I'm
Mhm.
better now, thankfully. But everything's been okay. I've just been taking it day by day. How about
Awesome. Same. Honestly, it's been like everything's been good. Honestly,
you? Yeah.
I was so happy to finally release this podcast.
I know. I'm so happy for
Yes,
you.
and yeah, I mean, it's been in the works for so long, and I was just so happy and relieved to finally put it out there in the world. And yeah, but I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here as well.
Awesome. So I first want to ask you about your career goals.
Oh.
So your major is corporate entrepreneurship, and you're also a double minor in real estate and law.
Yeah.
What made you choose that major?
So growing up, I've kind of been back and forth on what I decided that I wanted to do in my life and with my career and such. But it all came down to the fact that I think what really made me want to do this is the fact that my parents were also involved in business and real estate and such. I also did mock trial in high school, although it was not serious. It was just for fun, but I did realize that that's something that it's an environment that I would really enjoy. And I realized that my strong suit is communicating and being professional and business-like. So far, I love it. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, I've always seen you, I feel like throughout high school, I saw that you had, like a talent for this type of major, and I'm so glad that you still like stuck with it. And it's something that like runs in your family, right?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you about kind of like what motivates you to do all of this work, because I know like it's difficult. It's like it's not an easy major to major in college. So like, what motivates you to keep going with it?
I also think it's just the way I grew up. Like, I have a very, I set high expectations for myself.
Yeah.
You know, my family sets high expectations for me. So I kind of always had that perfectionist kind of mindset to an extent. But it's also for myself. Like, I want to be able to know that I can do it. It's like proving it to myself. I've always been ambitious and I've always been really motivated. So I think that most of it just comes from my heart and like my urge to want to be better and complete things and such.
Excellent. And what strengths and weaknesses, like what are your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to like just like school stuff and just your life in general? Like, what would you say like are your strengths and weaknesses?
I think that in regard to my career and school, my strengths would be that I'm very committed and I'm very ambitious and organized. But my weaknesses would probably be that I overwork myself. I'm a perfectionist, which is good and bad, but I see it as my weakness to an extent because I can never settle. Like, I'm just like I need to fix it. It needs to be perfect. Yeah. So I also I suck at taking time to take care of myself. Like, I'm constantly working and it's just like I don't feel like I have the time to take care of myself. So it's like, those are my strengths and weaknesses, which honestly can also be like general strengths and weaknesses throughout life as well. So yeah,
honestly, I feel like it depends on like the situation that you're in and stuff like that. I mean, I definitely relate to the overworking because I be doing that too, and I'm forgetting like, oh, like JL, you need to take time for yourself to just relax or just look up at the sky, take a walk outside,
exactly.
like breathe fresh air, not just be like literally stuck to my homework like all day. You know what I mean? So I definitely understand that. What tips would you give to someone who's struggling with those weaknesses that you stated there, like overworking yourself and things like that?
So I'm a big time blocker. I like to time block the entire day, throughout the week, etc. I think that if you treat your regular life like it's your career, like you time block space, this is me time. And even if it's an hour in a day, that's super important. As well as just focusing on the things that you love to do, things that bring you joy, that are energy givers, not energy takers. So like for me, it would be like moving my body, trying to eat healthy, meditation, reading, all of that kind of stuff. those are energy givers to me. And so I do that to refuel my body and my soul and such, ready to pursue what I want to pursue day by day. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be drained and you're not going to have any energy to give.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%. That those are great tips. And I think, obviously, like, it's not gonna, like, people aren't gonna follow it like all at once. It's something that takes time,
Right.
as we know. So like, it's something that can develop over time. And obviously, like, it's okay if some people like aren't doing that right now as we speak.
Right.
It's something that you can just kind of add on to your day, and yeah, just kind of take it day by day, as you said earlier. So I want to talk about friendships, and sort of like what qualities and characteristics you look in, when you're like looking for friends and things like that.
Yeah.
Like what characteristics and qualities are you attracted to when it comes to friendships?
I think one of the biggest things I stand by is when you allow people into your life. Like, I'm very selective with who I allow into my life. And not in the sense of like, oh, you can't be my friend, but more in the sense of, how do we motivate each other to become better? How can we add to each other's lives rather than take or keep it stagnant? I think that the right people and the right friends in your life will motivate you and push you to be a better person and push you to be happy and content with yourself before anybody else, you know? So I always look for loyalty and honesty. I'm a very blunt person, as you know.
Yes, I know.
Honesty, loyalty, and compassion. Honor, pride, and respect. Just kind of the three main things that makes a person.
That's perfect. I mean, I think it's so important for people to be honest.
I noticed that many of the negative relationships that I've experienced or that I've observed via other people are that people will doubt you.
Right.
And they'll tell you can't do something, or that you won't make it, or that you won't succeed in whatever you're trying to do, or that they'll question you and be like, are you sure that you think you can do that? Like, but I mean, it's good to question just to keep people realistic, but it's not good to tell them they can't do it at all. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've experienced. And it's also just when they're insecure with themselves, when your friends or your relationships, when you're insecure with yourself, it projects. Whether people believe it or not, it always projects, and it's always unhealthy, because you need to be secure with yourself and have your own identity before you allow these other people in your life to affect you in that way. So I think those are the biggest things that I've noticed in strained relationships and such.
Yeah, honestly, it's so important for people to surround themselves with people that uplift them, and only want the best for them, because I've seen, like, I mean, I haven't really experienced it myself, but I know, like, in some, like, friendships that I've heard of, like, people have said, like, just like these little passive comments that, like, you can just kind of tell that they sort of envy you,
right,
for, like, your successes in your life,
right.
and they don't, like, celebrate your successes. They kind of put it off to the side. And for example, like, let's say you're saying, let's say you say, oh yeah, I just I got great grades this semester or whatever,
Right.
like, and then a person says, oh yeah, like, I also, like, but I got, like, all these A's too, like, it's kind of like, it's like
kind of passive aggressive,
right, like, it's kind of like downgrading, like, your success, you know what I mean? Like, it'd just be better to be like, oh, like, that's amazing, and just kind of like maybe celebrate at the moment, and maybe you just mentioned that you also did the same as well at a later time, at a more appropriate time.
Right.
So what are some ways that people can kind of strengthen their relationships and, like, build trust if they've had these strained relationships in the past?
Oh, I'm a big advocate for this. I think that communication and comprehension.
Yes.
So people hear it all the time. Communication is key to relationships. Yeah, that is true. But communication goes nowhere without comprehension. If somebody is committed to misunderstanding you, or you guys just can constantly clash and you just cannot get on the same page, clearly something is not working. So you can try and try and try, but you can't give more than you have yourself, So you'd be giving nothing and it would just go in circles. So I think that comprehension and communication are key to growing relationships, because if you don't vocalize the problem, what do you expect the other person to read your mind? Like,
right, like,
or they may see things differently, which you need
yeah.
to figure out yourself and see where that goes and then move from there.
I think that's so important, communication. And I want to talk about like also the fact that like it's okay, like for example, we as friends, we don't talk every day,
Right.
but we still have that same energy when we see each other, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Like, and I feel like it's okay like to not talk to your, like, you know, to people that you know like every single day.
Yeah, that's
and I think
fine.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. And then some people kind of feel like the need to like do that, and like, you know, to kind of show that like maybe you're better friends because you do that, but I don't think that's true at all.
I don't think that's true either. I think that the right people understand when you need to work on yourself and when you need that space to grow and stuff. You know, again, it goes back to the energy givers over the energy takers.
Yeah.
You know, the natural things that aren't forced are the best things in life.
And like, I don't know how to like phrase this question, but so when it comes to like toxic like behaviors and stuff like that, like in people, like do you notice that instantly, or is that something that kind of like over time, like do you like, let's say like someone toxic comes in the room, like will like your antennas like go up and you'll be like, that's like, I don't want to, you know, like put myself with like with this person, like I don't want to like be with this person because they're toxic? Like, do you instantly know?
I think that throughout my adolescence and when I was younger, I did not. I didn't have a good radar at that time, but after growing up and learning more about myself and, you know, growing from there, instantly. Somebody can walk into a room and the immediate response that they give one person tells me a lot about them. You know, it's big on like first impressions, but also I tend to give people at least like 2 to 3 chances before I make an actual true judgment on them. And if I want to continue to have them in my surroundings and in my life, because, you know, I mean, you know me, I'm not the type of person that keeps relationships or friendships in my life if they do not add on to the happiness and good energy and good vibes in my life. So I have no problem with that, with removing things that aren't good for me. So
yeah, honestly, that's like so important. And the thing is that like, you know, it's difficult to like cut off people that are kind of like bringing that negative energy to your life. But how would you go about like how have you gone about like cutting someone off? Like obviously not in a bad way, but just kind of like letting them know that, you know, you just don't want to associate with them anymore. Like, how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think that there are different situations that you go about in different ways. I think that a lot of the time, distance and time naturally just pushes you guys apart. So
100%.
with that, and then it's also like, if they're really the type of people that want to talk about it and confront me about it, I'm happy to talk about it. I'll explain why I feel the way I feel and why I feel like I choose to not have certain people in my life for what reason. I have no problem talking about it, but for the majority of the time, it's normally just time and distance that naturally does it for us, and I naturally remove myself from situations and environments that, you know, deter me from my happiness.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great way to like kind of like remove yourself from a person without, you know, hurting anyone or anything like that, because that like time and distance really says a lot. Like, and like you said, or like we were talking about earlier, like you can just tell when someone has like bad energy by simply looking at their body language and just like the way that they communicate with people. And I think it's okay, like not to like, you know, if you don't want to associate yourself with those people, like that's perfectly fine. I mean, really at the end of the day, like we're trying to like better ourselves, and if we incorporate these people into our lives, like what are we doing? We're not like helping ourselves. We're honestly just making everything kind of like worse.
Absolutely,
if that makes sense.
I completely agree.
I want to talk about how like what ways you've shown like appreciation, and like what unique ways you've shown appreciation to your friends or family, whether it be small or large. Like what ways do you usually do that, like just even on a daily basis?
I think that over time I've come to learn that, I mean, even like my friends, my relationships have told me that the way I give love is through acts of service and words of affirmation. I mean, love languages aren't just for romantic relationships, they're also for friendships and such too. So I like to, even if it's like, oh, I'll grab you a water in the morning if you forgot your water, or I'll bring you breakfast or coffee or something if I'm on the way. That's the way I like to show love and my appreciation for people that I care about. And I also am very big on listening.
Yes.
Like, I want them to talk to me. I will listen. I'd be that outlet for them if they need it. Because as much as, you may have a million friends, but how many of them are truly listening to you and motivating you and adding to your life in that sense?
Yeah, like some people that I've spoken to, like they said, oh, like I don't have like great advice or whatever, but just being there to listen, like just hear someone out, like that really can make an impact.
No, absolutely.
And I think that's so important. I wanted to kind of close it off by talking about boundaries.
Oh, yes.
Like, how do you deal with it, and what would you describe healthy boundaries as?
In what sense? Like friendships or relationships?
Both.
Okay. Well, the thing about me is I set my boundaries right when we become friends or right when I start a relationship, because that way there's no excuse, really. Like, if you overstep somebody's boundary after they've clearly stated it, I mean, it needs to be something that needs to be discussed. I mean, obviously people make mistakes and they unintentionally overstep boundaries, but that's something I immediately address right in the moment. Because if you let things linger for too long, it gives it the chance to grow and grow. Right?
I've been guilty of that.
So I like to, knock it out of the park right then and there, because, it's also a respect thing. Like, you got to understand, hey, this was my boundary and you overstepped it. Can we talk about it? See where we can grow from here, or, hopefully not worse, but exactly. And the same thing with my relationships. I mean, I'm very clear on, like I mentioned before, I'm very secure with myself, and I'm very, aware of who I am, and that I don't necessarily need anybody, but to have this person in my life romantically, I set my boundaries very clear. It's just respect for one another, and I expect them, vice versa, my friends and my relationships, to also vocalize their boundaries with me, so I understand and I can respect them in that way.
Exactly. I think it's so important to vocalize those things.
Right.
A huge theme in like the words that you've given me are communication. I think communication in all aspects, in all scenarios, is just key to making sure these relationships maintain themselves and stay healthy.
Right, I agree.
What final words of advice would you give to our listeners today, who might be experiencing strained relationships at the moment, and they want to rebuild those relationships in the future and maintain them?
I think understand that having boundaries is okay. Communicating your boundaries is okay. And it's also okay if some people and relationships don't work out, because the right relationships, you will know, and they will be able to comprehend and not just hear what you're saying. So I think that's the main advice I would give, is to focus on prioritizing the fact that you decide who stays in your life, and you decide how a relationship goes based on how you react. You'd rather be aware of how you feel and how you react to a situation with this other person than how they react and how you feel that they feel. It's about how you feel. So, yeah.
Oh, you could not have said it better. Thank you so much for sharing all those words of advice, and you're really truly inspiring. And I'm not just saying that like because we're here. Like, I really truly believe that you radiate such positive energy that exudes literally through like everyone that you talk to. So I really appreciate that. You have warmth that you give off, and like I've told you before, your face is just comfortable to look at, because you give like such good energy, and I love it so much. So overall, thank you so much for being on Zeroed In. I truly appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.
And also check out Sonniya's podcast as well.
Yes, I have a podcast as well. It's called Sticks and Stones, The Experience of Adulthood. You can also find it on Spotify and Apple Music. And we recorded an episode as well. It's on my channel, obviously, but I'll have his episode linked on my description as well. So.
Yes, I'm so excited for you guys to watch. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening.